Hello everybody, today we're taking a look at the Jumper T12 transmitter. The T12 is a 16-channel radio that runs OpenTX and has a multi-protocol module. This module has 4 RF chipsets inside that essentially means you can communicate with any kind of receiver. With the radio, you'll get a battery box that holds 4 AA's, a neck strap, some little extra hardware pieces, and a mini USB cord. So taking a look around the radio, you have 2 two-way switches on top, you have 4 three-way switches on the front, and 2 rotary switches on the sides. The buttons here, this top one is the enter button, this is the back button, this is the up button, selection button, down button, menu button, and page button. On top, here's your mini USB port for plugging it into the computer. And on the multi-protocol module, this mini USB port is for updating the firmware on the module. On the bottom, you have a place for a battery. I have a 2-cell LiPo here. It just plugs into the balance port. That's the kind of plug that's on the AAA or AA battery tray. It just slides in there if you want to use AA's. And right here is where you put the micro SD card. Alright, to turn on the radio, just hold down the power switch. It'll likely come up with a fail-safe warning first because we haven't got a model set up yet. So just press the enter key and get rid of that warning. So first let's go into radio setup. Hold down this menu button and then you can change your date and time. I've already changed it here, but if you wanted to make a change to that, just press the enter button, starts flashing. Up and down buttons allow you to make a change. Press enter button, gets you back out of edit mode, and then you can continue to scroll down through the various parameters till you get one that you want. So really the only 2 things that we need to change here, I just should note I got the backlighting turned off right now for a duration of 0 just so it shows up on the camera good. But usually that defaults to 10 seconds. So really the only 2 things you want to check here, you can go backwards. So the menu goes around, so if you go backwards, you end up at the bottom of the list. You want to make sure you got your mode set up right. So I've got mine set up for mode 2. And your RX channel, you want to have that set up to AETR so that matches Betaflight. So, again, if you just want to change that, you just press the enter button, get it flashing, make a change, get where you want it. Press enter, then hit the back button, and it'll take you back out to the main setup screen. So you can see here this is radio setup page 1 of 9. So if you want to scroll through the various pages, just press the page button. There's the SD card contents. We don't have an SD card in there yet. We'll do that in a minute. And you have various screens here. I'm going to go back around here and show you this one shows you the firmware version that's on the radio currently. You can always do a factory reset here at the bottom. If you mess something up, you can get it back to get back to the factory real quick. So we can back out of this. So that's really all we need to do on radio setup. So now let's go ahead and set up a model. So now you just press the menu button quickly, and then you can press the page button, select the model you want. And so first thing you come up to, this is page 2 of 13. But we'll do most of the changes here and on the mixer page. So I'm going to set this up so that we can bind this to a FrSky XM Plus receiver. So let's go ahead and name the model. So press enter, and then you just simply scroll through, and what you name your model the way you want it. I'm going to do X, and then if you hold down the enter key, it makes it capitalized. And then you can go to, we'll do M, enter key. And then, all right, XM Plus. And that's just, I'll bind all my XM Plus receivers to the same model. All right, so that's it. So we can back out of the model name, and then we need to go down and change a few other things. So we talked about this being a multi-module, multi-protocol module. So if you go down through this list here, you'll find one that says external RF mode. Well, first of all, let's go up here to internal RF mode here. So what you want to do is change this. So this does not have an internal RF chip. So we just simply press enter there and go to off. All right. So we turn off the internal RF mode, and we're going to turn on the external. So we want to select, for an FR Sky receiver, we want to select multi, and then we'll go over here for the protocol and select FR Sky. There it was, FR Sky. And subtype D16 is fine. So that's all good. We'll set this up on RX number 2. So we set up another type of receiver. We'll set that up for RX number 2 and just increment that. There's our bind. There's our range test. Failsafe, let's go ahead and change that here. Go to no pulses. There we go. And that should be it. That's all we need to do on this screen right here, this 2 of 13 setup screen. So now we'll go back. Oops, go back there. Okay, so we're not back out to the main screen. Again, back in the menu, press the page button. And the other one that we want to go to set this up is our mixer. So we want to set up for Betaflight, and I'm going to be setting this up to one of the Hobbymate 5-inch drones. We'll have this as our arm switch. That's a 2-way switch. That's perfect for arming. We'll have this B switch for our flight mode. And then, so that's a 3-way switch. That'd be good for flight mode. And then we can set up this switch here, 3-way switch, and we can use this for the buzzer and turtle mode. And so that'll be off, that'll be buzzer, and that'll be turtle mode. So to do that, all you have to do is go into your mixer here, and we're going to set up the arming on channel 5. So press enter there. So we'll name that one arm. There we go. So now go back out one level, go back. So now we have to tell it what switch we're going to be associating with ARM. Remember, we said we're going to do this one. So, but all you have to do is press enter, and it's searching for all the switches. So you can see that's switch G. So all you have to do is switch it, and then it'll pick it up. If I switch this B, you can see that switches over to B. But I'll go ahead and switch it back to G. So that's it. Press enter. Back out. Back out. Go down to channel 6. So this will be our flight mode. Press enter. Spell it out. All right. Now we'll go down here and select our switch. Again, press enter. Decide that we want to do this switch B here. That's it. Press enter. Go back. Go back. Set up the last one. This will be our buzzer and turtle mode. Press enter. What's called buzz. All right. Go down here and select our switch. Let's use this switch here. Switch C. Press enter. Go back. Go back. So that's all we have to do for setting up our mixer. So now we're essentially ready to bind it to the receiver. Get back out of this. Now we're back out to the main screen. So I can take you through those other screens real quick. Again, this is where you would select different models. So if we want to select this model number 2, which we don't have anything in that model yet, but you could hold that down and we could select it if we created it. Again, going back to this one, go through different pages. There's our setup, helis. We don't do anything on helis. Our inputs, those are all fine. Those are all assigned when we did the mixer. There's our mixers, our arm, our flight mode, and our buzzer. There's our outputs. This is where we would set our limits in Betaflight to try to get between 1,000 and 2,000, 1,500 as our midpoint on Betaflight when we're setting up our receiver tab. We won't need to be doing any curves or logical switches or special functions or any scripts. This is a telemetry page. When we're setting up a receiver with telemetry, you would want to go down here and hit Discover New Sensors. But the XM Plus does not have telemetry. Go to this. And I think that's pretty much the last page. We're back out to the front. So let's go ahead and bind up an XM Plus receiver. Okay, so I've got the Hobbymate Comet 5-inch drone here. It has an XM receiver in it. It's right back here. I'll just go ahead and take this top plate off of it, even though you can reach that. Otherwise, you can't see the binding lights that I want to show you without taking the copper off. So I'll take that top plate off, and I'll be right back. Okay, so all we have to do is press menu, press page. We can go backwards on the page 2 of 13, and we're ready to select bind. We press enter, it'll start binding. So here's the bind button on the XM Plus. So we'll just hold that down as we're plugging in a USB. Make sure you got that bind button. Plugging in USB cord. You can see in there, hopefully, there's a little red and green light both lit up solid in there. Yeah, right about there. I think you can see it. So go ahead and press bind. It starts flashing in there. And that means that it's binding. And that's all there is to it. So we can go ahead and remove power, reapply. And if you see in there now, that little LED is green. So that's all there is to binding it. Now we can exit back out. So now it's bound. So if you have a FrSky RXSR receiver, like I have in this Meteor drone, you bind it up exactly the same way as you did the XM Plus. So all I did here was create a second model for RXSR and essentially copied the XM Plus over and changed the name to RXSR. And so what you want to do here for a telemetry receiver is you want to go over to the telemetry page here, and you want to go down to the bottom here, and you want to hit Discover New Sensors. And so you'll see that RSSI comes through and the RX battery voltage, which is the 5 volts going to the receiver. If I have this plugged in to a LiPo, there'll be a lot more that come through. So you want to repeat that after you plug in LiPo. But just for now, this is fine. So you can hit stop here. And so you can see I got RSSI here showing up at about 100 dB or so. So you want to make sure you do that for telemetry receivers. So with that, now I essentially have two models programmed into the T12, the XM Plus and RXSR, And now we'll go over to the computer and companion, look at both of those.
So here we are in front of the computer. The first website I want to show you is the jumper.xyz. So go ahead and go to this website. And what we want to do here is go to products and go to T12 plus radio. And if you scroll down here on the product page for the radio, you'll find all the specifications, the 4-in-1 module information, and here's the 4-in-1 module protocols. So all of these protocols are supported. They're pretty much every single protocol that's out there. There might be a few protocols that are not supported, but most everything is. And so here's the example protocols, the main ones that I showed in the video earlier. So that's one place to look. You scroll back over to downloads here, and then you can go over to the Jumper T12. And so here's where the firmware is kept. So you can update the firmware. There's a guide here. I'm not going to go into that. But if you wanted to update the firmware, if you to a different country, I can certainly do that. You got the SD contents link here. This takes you over to the OpenTX website. You got the Jumper TX start sounds. You can put in a different start sound when you turn on the radio. Instead of saying OpenTX, it can say welcome to Jumper TX. You've got the quick start guide. That was included in the box. And then you have the software manual for the OpenTX project itself. So if we go to the SD contents here, all this does is link you over to the OpenTX website. So I'd rather go over there first. On our own. So if you go to opentx.org or open-tx.org, you'll end up here. And so what we want to do is we want to install OpenTX Companion. So go to the latest version, which is 2.2.2 at the time of this video. Scroll down the bottom. So you want to install OpenTX Companion. So there's a Windows installer, there's a Mac installer, if you've got Linux, there's a variety of different versions for different operating systems. I'm going to go ahead and already have it installed, the Windows version. While you're here, you can download the SD contents. If I click this, know that the T12 is based on the X7 firmware. So you click that, and that is exactly the same place that was linked to over on the Jumper website. So go ahead and download the latest version, which is version 0018, and we're going to be copying that to the SD card. So at this time, go ahead and have your T12 powered off. Go ahead and install a micro SD card in the bottom slot. It needs to be formatted FAT32, and then go ahead and turn on the T12. Take the micro USB cord, plug it into your computer, and then plug the cord into the top of the T12 radio, and then you'll see something on the screen that either says USB joystick or USB storage. Go down to USB storage. So press enter, and then you'll see two different possible disks show up. We don't need to worry about the Tyrannus one, but we can open up. This is going to be the SD card right here. So you can open this up and see the contents. So all you have to do here, I've already copied the SD contents over here. But if you take a look at these SD contents, here's the download. All you got to do is copy all of these files, copy them onto the SD card. You just copy them straight onto here. I'm not going to do that, but because I already have. But that's all you'd have to do, and then go ahead and unplug the USB cord and turn off the radio. And then when you turn it back on, you hear the OpenTX greeting. It'll sound like this.
Welcome to OpenTX.
Yep. So now we have the SD contents on the card. So go ahead and plug back in, go to USB storage again, press enter, and now we're going to go into OpenTX Companion. Okay, so the first thing we want to do is go to settings here and go to radio profiles. We want to create one for the Jumper T12. I've already done that, but I'll go ahead and make a second one. So the Jumper T12 is based on the X7 firmware, so I'll just select that type of firmware, the radio type, and we'll call it Jumper T12-2. All right, go back here. We'll see that is the one that's selected. So we've got the mini USB cord plugged into the computer and the T12. We can read the models. So here's the first one we created here. All the screens here are exactly as we set up on the radio. You see our input screen here. See our mixes screen here. See there's our arm, our flight mode, and our buzzer we created. Close that one out. Then we go to the RXSR. Same thing here as the other one. We of course have telemetry turned on this one. So one of the things that we can do here while we're under the RXSR is that for the telemetry, we can go ahead and make some setting changes here under inputs and mixes to allow RSSI to come over to Betaflight. So we're going to have RSSI come over to Betaflight on channel 8 or aux 8. So I'll go down here. I think you can use any one of these inputs, but I always just remain consistent and use input 8. And we're going to put RSI, 3 characters here, and the source here. When I scroll down the list, and these are only going to be available if you have a telemetry receiver and you found discovered sensors as we showed earlier in the video. Select RSSI, but don't just the one without a plus or a minus, and then we're going to change the scale to 100, and that's it. Now we're going to go over to mixes, channel 8, and we're going to type RSSI. You can do 4 here, and the source for this is going to be that new RSI that we just created. We're going to have a weight, it needs to be 200, and the offset needs to be negative 100. And that is it. So now we made those changes, and we'll download those back to the radio here in just a moment. So you can go in here and, well, I already have that open, but you can go in here and see, you can change the model names. You can, if I want to copy this model, I just bring it down here and create another model, change the name. So the OpenTX companion allows you to do things that you can do on the radio, but a lot easier. So I can go ahead and delete that one. And so we just have our 2 that we had originally. So we can close out this, and then we can download, write the models to the radio. So we click that, we write it to TX. Now those changes that we just made are written back to the TX. So that's really all there is to setting up the radio and using the OpenTX software.
So to wrap up this video, I just wanted to point out that the multi-protocol module inside the T12 is not only capable of controlling a top-spec race drone, it's also capable of controlling all of these toy-grade drones as well. When you upgrade to a controller like this, from a controller like this, or like this, these toy-grade drones fly so much better. So that's all I have for today. Thanks for watching.